Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and welcome to a special edition of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I'm here today to talk to you about Ronin Warriors, the series review. This takes me back to the good old days. When I was growing up in the 90s, and this was one of the first animes I've ever seen, alongside that of Sailor Moon and Digimon. In my opinion, it is considered one of the greatest animes, but yet a large chunk of people have no idea this even exists, and most people forgotten about it. But it's one of my all-time favorites, but I feel like it gets no kind of respect because of the simple fact it's that old. In America, it came out in 95. But in Japan, it came out in 1988 through 1989. Yes, it's that old and everything. It came out in the 80s and stuff. It's about over 35 years old and everything. And it's weird when you watch it. A lot of it still holds up. Some of it doesn't because, the animation has changed since then. You don't see anime Japan cartoons look like this anymore with the stylized, look of the faces and the way their bodies look and the backgrounds. Everything has now changed. Everything has evolved. That's how things are supposed to do. And, but the action in the anime still holds up. Sometimes it's a bit jarring because, it's outdated, but a lot of the action is so fluid. It is amazing. Like when I go and I look at He-Man, an American cartoon, the animation is so stiff, like it's embarrassing. But of course, this is Japanese cartoons, and they really go the extra mile to make things look realistic and stuff. And it's crazy watching this show after all these years, seeing those old 80 clothes and, stuff like that. And this was also this cartoon. I don't know if this is all anime because I don't watch anime for the most part. But this cartoon series is serious. There's no real humor in this. Unlike Sailor Moon and Digimon and so many others, it's just it was just a different time. And I respect the serialness and stuff, the seriousness of it all. Because one of the things about Sailor Moon and Digimon that gets me is all that wacky humor. I get it, it's for kids. You know what I'm saying? But even as a kid, I didn't want to see it back then, and I don't want to see it as an adult right now. But this is one of the most action-packed series I've ever seen, where it's non-stop action. And yes, there is drama and there is character development, but my God, it's 70% action in one episode and stuff. That's how action-packed it is. So as a kid watching this, or was I a teenager at that time? Yeah, I was a teenager, I think, at that time in 95. So as a teen or preteen or whatever, it's I appreciated that action. You know what I'm saying? Because nowadays, when you watch stuff, it's not as action-packed. There's a lot of talking, a lot of drama, and most things, it's 95% talking and drama and 5% action. And I don't like that. I miss the good old days when you saw people get the butt kicked and everything. And I remember watching this. This reminded me so much of Power Rangers and stuff. Because you gotta remember, in the 90s, this came out in 95. Power Rangers came out, I think, in 93 or something like that, or 94 or something. So it always reminded me of, this always reminded me of either a cross between Power Rangers, Sailor Moon, and Ninja Turtles. because like like they transform, they fight this evil, they use like martial arts type weapons and everything, the color palettes and stuff. It just always reminded me of Sailor Moon, Ninja Turtles, and Power Rangers, which was up my alley back in the 80s and the 90s and stuff. And for the most part, some of the dialogue, is still is like, I don't know, like it's not outdated. Like some of the dialogue is a little outdated and stuff. Now, of course, when it went over to America, they changed a little things here and there. And what do I mean by change? Not the show. They kept everything intact. The killing, the slapping the face of a child, all that crap they kept intact. For the most part that I know of, I don't think in the Japanese version, I don't think like there was no cussing or anything. But the only thing they changed up was the intro and the little eye catcher bumpers and stuff and the end credits, which the American intro hits hard. It slaps hard, it hits hard, it's good. That's why on the DVD and the Blu-ray, oh, that pissed me off because there's two different versions. Like you got the DVD versions. You have like the volumes, you know what I'm saying, for the DVD. Then you have like the complete series broken down in two giant volumes, like book sets and everything. And then you have the Blu-ray. And if you have the older DVDs, then the American intro is intact. But if you have the Blu-ray, well, that's a bit of a problem because they use the Japanese intros and the Japanese music and the Japanese bumpers and stuff. But if you go to the last DVD of the series and you go to special features, then you get this experience. The American intro, the American end credits, the bumpers, the commercials and everything. You get to relive all that goodness. And I appreciate that because I really love the American intro. But I'm surprised they didn't edit the crap out of this like they did Sailor Moon and Digimon. Maybe because it was two different studios. Because, like, for Ronin Warriors, when they came over to, like, America in 95, it was, what was it? Graz Entertainment. And they just kept everything intact. They didn't change everything like Fox Kids or Deke did with Sailor Moon and Digimon. And that's kind of cool and everything. They didn't change none of the names up. They just kept everything the same. And this probably would have been a heck of a lot easier for a lot of people watching Sailor Moon back in the day. Because when I watch things like Sailor Moon, Crystal, like I'm like, why are the names different? Like, well, why is this extra footage here? And why are they driving on like the left side of the road? And so that would have made things a heck of a lot easier. But I do understand why Deke did what they did to make it easier for kids understanding it in North America, Western countries and stuff like that. So I do get it, you know what I'm saying? But when I say this anime gets no respect, man, I mean this anime doesn't get no respect. It took years for it to be on streaming. It took years for it to come out on DVD. It took years for it to come out on Blu-ray. And the Blu-ray has been enhanced in HD. I'll get to that a little bit later. And it took years just for some more modern day merch to come out. And the merch is expensive, by the way. I was only able to buy one 6-inch figure because they are that expensive. Like Japanese people don't play when it comes to money. When they put their merch out, boy, they it's up in the hundreds. Like Digimon, I can't get no Digimorpher. Not Digimorpher, but a Digivice. I can't buy no Digivice. I can't. They're too expensive. I had to get like the little cheap MP3 like holder thing and just glue it together. Like they have brand new Digivices from I think the second season that's about to come out. I can't get that stuff. Like it's over $100. I don't want to buy that just for a toy. But when it came to Ronin Wars, boy, I saved up. I got that Inferno armor. I couldn't get the rest. I really wanted the other. Some of them have come a little bit cheaper. Like I think Ryo's red armor is about $70 now. It's on sale, but that was a couple of years back when I saw it for 70. But yeah, they don't play when it comes to merch. That mess is expensive. But that's about all you really get. There are no costumes they sell. There are no weapons they sell. Basically all you get is like the 6-inch figures and like the DVDs and Blu-rays, and that's about it. And so like in 2020, this show even got like a video game adaptation. Like that's how long it took. Like I say, when this show gets no respect, it gets no respect. It was like one and done. In fact, being one and done, it only had one season. And they had 39 episodes and 3 OVA movies and stuff. There was never a second season. There was never a live action adaptation. Never a musical. Never an American remake. Like none of that stuff. No kind of sequel whatsoever. It was one and it was done. And because it was in the 80s, one problem I do have with this series is that just like everything else in the 80s, it's fast, it's loose, and it's in your face. What you see is what you get. And the first couple of episodes, maybe the first 3, for me are the hardest to get through because the dialogue is clunky. Things are rushed very quickly. Things are not explained, and things just kind of happen. But then as the series goes on, that's when they start to get more into the lore, more deep into like, where the armor came from and backgrounds of the villains, but not backgrounds of the heroes for some bizarre reason. It's so jarring and confusing as to why the heroes of this series aren't really explained that well. We don't know how they got their armor, why they got their armor. We don't know how they was taught to use their armor, because whenever they use it, they just seem to know everything. It's like instinctive knowledge. Very similar to how Power Rangers is. It's like Power Rangers, they morph, and all of a sudden they know everything about their powers unless somebody makes something specific for them and they have no idea how to use it. Or somehow the instinct just automatically comes in their head. That's how this series is. They transform, and then all of a sudden they know everything about their power. But then some things they have to be taught, like why, if they go to a certain part of the world, their armor gets energized, and sometimes why, like Ryo, the Infernal armor. No, not Inferno. Like his Wildfire armor, the red one, like. When it's around something hot, he gets energized and everything. That's because his powers are fire-based and everything, and heat helps rejuvenate him and everything. Or like Psy, like, his armor works better in water. So you always see him lounge around, laying around in like the lakes and stuff like that. And so they have to learn things like that. But everything else just comes second nature to them. Like, we don't know nothing about none of these guys' past before they became Ronin warriors. And we don't even know exactly when they became Ronin warriors and stuff. It just seems to kind of just happen. The bad guys show up, then all of a sudden one hero shows up, Ryo, and he's just like taking them all on. And, he reveals he has like exo armor underneath, and then he transforms into his bigger armor, and then all of a sudden here comes the other 4, and nobody's like, it's weird. Ryo doesn't know any of the other Ronin warriors, like none of them. Like that's how it's shown in the first episode. But then what's even more confusing is that another one shows up and he's all like, I brought some friends, and it just seems like none of them know who any of them are. But yet the moment they're united for the first time, they just seem to bond instantly and everything. But they do bicker and fight and argue a lot, you know what I'm saying? And but it's just so confusing because we find out where the armor came from later on in the series. We find out about the major bad guy. We find out a little bit too about the villains, like the generals and stuff. But when it comes to the actual heroes, it's a blank slate. And I have no idea why. Like heck, even Mia, we get to know a little bit more about her and everything, just a little bit, but it's like when it comes to Ronin Wars, they're just like, whatever. Just get them their outfits and whatever. Like we also don't know how. I think it's never explained how Ryo even became in possession of White Blaze, but it just seems like he's had him forever and everything. And it's that's the one thing that bugs the crap out of me in this series. It's like how, you know what I'm saying? I wish they would have explained that. But another thing that bugs me about this series is the three OVA movies. My God, I hate them to death. Some of them seems to be their own standalone stories, and other ones seems to evolve other stories that came out. Like they came out sometime in the 2000s, I think. And one of them is called, I think, Gaiden. The other one is called Legend of the Infernal Armor, and the other one is called Message. Message I hate the most because all of a sudden we start to get like in all three movies we start to get like all these new like bad guys that just appeared out of nowhere. And in Message, they have new armor, but they only get the armor at the very end of like the movie. And it's basically just for them to pose in. And I'm just kind of like, dude, you hyped us up with new armor and we don't even get to see it used. And the original armors look a heck of a lot better than their new armor and everything. And then we have like the Legend of the Infernal Armor, where it's revealed the Infernal Armor has a twin armor. And that one was found by a dude in Africa. And the armor looks completely different from its twin counterpart. And not only that, but apparently they're evil armor. And it's just kind of like, wait, it's evil now? I thought this thing was supposed to be good. And aren't all the armors technically supposed to be Tulpa's like armor? And when they combine, they make the infernal armor. So wouldn't it make more sense for the twin to be that of the evil armors that are in the series, the Dark Lords and everything? But the Dark Lord's armor can also turn into the white infernal armor, but and now they have to get rid of the infernal armors in it. Like, what the heck are y'all doing? Like, one, that was the coolest thing in the series when Ryo turned into the white infernal armor and everything. Like, that was just like awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, why get rid of this subplot and everything and make it into now a bad thing? And I've told you before, I've never been a fan of anime movies that are based on a television series because for the most part, they just like you don't know when they take place and they tend to change things. And it's like, you know, who, what, when, how, why. You know what I'm saying? There's only been a few that I actually like or I can stomach. Like some of the Sailor Moon ones are pretty good. Some of the Digimon ones are pretty good, but a lot of the other ones just aren't and everything. And I just can't. Also, they changed the way they transform in the animated movies. Now they say two arms, like the Japanese footage, because in the American version, they will always say Dao G for some reason. I don't know what that word means. But Kento used to always say it weird. Everybody else say Dao G, but he would say Dagaga G. And then I'm like, why are you saying it like that for, man? But I don't know what that word means. Maybe it means two arms, like in Japan or something like that. I don't know. But I do know in the Japanese when they say two arms, sometimes in the American one they will say two arms, but for different reasons. But in the movie, all of a sudden they just say two arms. And they had to change some of the voices up in the movies. I don't know why. Like, and then you can honestly tell, like, one of the Ronin Warriors' voice is completely different because one actor voices two Ronin Warriors, and it's just jarring. And like, they had to change up the Mia actress voice, which, by the way, they got an actress who sounds just like her. The only problem is she doesn't act like her. They got the actress who played Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde from X-Men Evolution, and she has a more upbeat voice, like a party girl voice, and like in the X-Men show. And so she brought that along for like her Ronin Wars. But if you know Mia, she doesn't sound that upbeat, but their voices sound identical and stuff. And oh wait, I forgot about the one person I hate the most in this series, Yuli. Oh my god, I hate that little twerp. He is one of the most annoying kid characters in all of anime. From what I've heard, Japanese audience and Western audience both despise this character so much. He's worse than TK on the original Digimon. Like, my God, he's annoying. And he looks annoying. He sounds annoying. He acts annoying. And I decided to listen to the Japanese dub because I have like the DVDs and the Blu-ray. Boy, the Japanese actor or actress who did his voice made him sound even more annoying and everything. He is that one character everybody just seems to hate. So thank God they got rid of him in like the movies. But then we see like a cameo of him in the last one where he's older and he's doing kendo now, I believe. And so we're watching this. It's weird because it's only 39 episodes, but it feels like it goes on for 100 episodes because that's how rich and deep the action and what these guys have to do to get to the end game and everything. It's like, the dynasty takes over. Talpa is the main ruler of the dynasty. He's this evil person who's like a floating ghost head, but then he later on regains his body. He was just defeated many years ago. And it's all this mystery stuff. And that's what I like about this series is the mystery of it all. Because you wonder why all this stuff is happening. Then all of a sudden it takes like a left field and kind of adjusts its like storytelling. And then you start to learn more stuff out, like where the armors came from, how it belongs to Tulpa, how he used to have a body, how he was defeated by the Ancient One, and his armors were like scattered all around and found by like the Ronin warriors and stuff, and also by the Dark Lords, which the Dark Lords are like the generals. It's 5 Ronin warriors, but it's like 4 Dark Lords, and each are counterparts to each other, kind of like the light and darkness of each other. But it's weird because it's 5 against 4, so I wish they would have had like a 5th dark armor and everything. And it's also kind of weird because they're all the armors, like, hey, the Ronin warrior armors are very similar, so are the exoskeleton armors, but then the dark ones just look evil and everything. And it's just weird. They're all from the same armor, just been split up. Why do they look so radically different? You know what I'm saying? And so, then eventually they start bringing in these side villains and everything. So it's kind of like, whoa, there's more to the dynasty than we thought. You know what I'm saying? And like, then all of a sudden, there's like the white infernal armor that just came like, later on in the series. And it's like, holy crap, this is awesome. What is this? You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing I always like about Japanese superhero shows is that they do that. Eventually the main hero will get like an upgrade in their powers, and so but they tend to rely on that new power way too much and stuff. There's like death in the show, there's resurrection, a villain turns into a good guy after a while. Like, it is really engaging and stuff. And that's why I really appreciate they don't tend to steer away from like the narrative and everything. They seem to just like keep on point, you know what I'm saying? And even when they do like shift, they don't shift too dramatically or radically and everything. Now, just like with all great animes, this group is constantly splitting up. It's like I don't know, like a trope of like anime groups and stuff, heroic groups. So they're split up in the beginning and then they find each other in the first episode. Then by like the third episode, like Topa sends down this powerful tornado that just blasts the crap out of them. And they get like pretty much tossed like hundreds of miles away. And so like their armor like realizes they're in danger, so they get sent. So their armor sends them to a place where their armor can heal, whether it be a volcano, the ocean, a rock mountain, or outer space, like whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, then, one by one, they find each other, and then they're together for like a brief moment, only to get split up again. Then they stay together for a good while, and then they split up again. I'm like, come on, man. Like, what's going on? But that's a common trope with a lot of anime shows. I saw that in Sailor Moon. I've seen that in Digimon. Like, whenever there's like a heroic group, for some reason, they just always split up. But the great thing about them splitting up is like it gives you individual moments with them where they learn more stuff about their armor, how to control it, what it means like to be a hero and stuff. And unlike Sailor Moon, like 80% of the cartoon isn't filler, so that's a good thing. Now, the DVD had the original animation from like the series, right? And the Blu-ray has now changed all that because in HD. So of course things look different. And I hate that and like it at the same time. But then it's kind of like, I don't know, because, okay, here's the thing, right? In the original television version, and you can find, I think, the original television version uploaded on YouTube illegally and everything. And when you watch it, you notice that it's very 80s. There's like, grain on the camera or the film or whatever. It's more muckier and dirtier and like these like saturated muckiness of like dark muted type colors type stuff. But I kind of like that because when the dynasty takes over, it turns that part of Japan and later on the earth into like a dystopia look. So the muckiness and the darkness and the mutedness and like the grain really helps with that. Problem is now for the Blu-ray, everything is cleaner, everything is brighter, and it looks like nothing bad is going on. But you can actually see things a heck of a lot better. That's one problem about the original. You couldn't always see everything, but now everything has better lines and it's clean. Like, and the colors are brighter and the colors have now changed. This is the thing that I really don't like. I don't like the overall cleanness of it, but I do like the fact I can see stuff a little bit more. But it's way too bright, way too colorful, and they change a lot of the colors. The color of the armors have been changed because it's Blu-ray and HD. And more importantly, the people's skin tones have changed. This is a Japanese cartoon, and all the characters here are Japanese, except for Mia. She's half Canadian, half Japanese, but I don't know if she's half white, half Japanese. For all I know, like, one of her parents probably just, like, moved on over to, like, Canada, and then, like, whatchamacallem, and made her over there in Canada. But like, so all I know is she's half Canadian, half Japanese. and she was born over in Canada. But everybody's skin tone is different. In the original, because like I said before, it is Japanese characters, everybody had a little bit of a tan, like a golden brown Asian type tan. You can see this in the original like footage and everything, right? But of course, because it's the modern day and it's Blu-ray and HD, they made everybody look white. And the skin tone is just pure white now. Not white as in the actual color white, but like skin people color white, you know what I'm saying? And they no longer have that Asian golden, like brown tannish look no more. I hate when they do this to animation because they're trying to appeal to like a different audience, mostly a Western audience and everything. And I really hate when they do that crap. And so I miss the original skin tone, like, because that's one of the things that always confused me in the 90s when I would watch Sailor Moon, Digimon, and Ronin Wars, which were the only three animes I've ever watched that I knew of. I have watched, like, Sailor Moon Crystal later on in my adult years, Death Note, stuff like that. But like I always assumed all these characters were white people living in Japan. I had no idea they was Japanese. They had blonde hair and brown hair and green hair and blue hair, and it's just like their faces and their skin tones look white. I just assumed they were white people living in Japan. And I didn't understand. I'm like, why are they living in Japan? Like, there's something about Japan I don't know about? Like South Africa or something. So yeah, it has changed and everything. But the Blu-ray, like I said before, keeps the original Japanese music, which, ooh, I missed that Western, like, intro so much. It hit so hard. And yeah, when they came on to the West, they used Canadian actors, which is something they typically normally do, like they did with X-Men and Sailor Moon and stuff like that. So over in Japan, the series isn't even called Ronin Warriors. That was changed for America. The actual name is Armor Legends Samurai Troopers and stuff. And I remember seeing that thinking, why are they calling it that? It's called Ronin Warriors. But I had no idea at the time that, it was just the American adaptation of it. And back then, it was created by Sunrise, like, studio and stuff, right? But they've been bought out by Bandai. And so now Sunrise is, okay, look, I can't pronounce some of these names, so this is where I'm going to butcher stuff. Bandai Namasi, I don't know, film works and stuff. So it's now called that. And it was actually created, and I'm about to butcher this dude's name, Hajime Yatate. And he is the one who created this series and stuff. And it was co-produced by the television network of Nagoya or something like that. I'm not sure how to say that. And so, like I said before, it ran from 1988 to 1989, a total of 39 episodes. And they even had a manga and everything. And I believe 98 they created. Gauze Entertainment, had it in 95, and I can't talk. It aired in syndication in 95, but also on other networks such as Cartoon Network in 1999, Sci-Fi in 1996, and USA Network in 1995. I watched it in syndication. And so the DVD came all the way back out in 2002. Now you can watch it on streaming. I know Amazon Prime has it. I think Tubi and Crunchyroll might also have it. Trying to think. I know Tubi. I know Amazon Prime has it, but you can also watch it on YouTube as well. Where you can find the OVAs, heck if I know. And I remember back when I was a young teen watching this show, it came out in the summer on syndication, and I watched the crap out of it. Sat in front of my TV, watched it. But then, school came around. In the I don't know if I went to summer school that year, but I know in the fall I was unable to watch the rest of the series. I stopped once they got around to that new female villain with the size. And I used to love that character. And I was mad because I never knew how it ended until I watched it on YouTube many years ago. And then I later bought it on like DVD. But then I decided just to buy it on Blu-ray. And the Blu-ray is like 50 something bucks on Amazon. Now, you can technically still find some of the old DVDs and everything, like the volumes and the two box sets that split the series in half. FYE used to have it. And I remember when I got it from FYE, I got it for a steal, man. So like I ordered one of the volumes for like $1 or something, right? But instead they didn't have it and gave me a box set. I'm like, awesome. But now I have the Blu-ray and stuff. You could probably also find it on eBay because you can find just about everything on eBay. And this is how they like to get you with the money. Okay, if you buy this on Blu-ray and you want the OVAs as well, just buy the complete series on Blu-ray because it comes with the OVAs. But they also have it individually, so you can just buy the OVAs by themselves and it's cheaper. Just buy the complete series. I think one of the movies isn't on there, I believe, but that's about it. But I'm pretty sure all the movies are there from what I've checked. So yeah, don't spend your money on the complete series and the OVA movies on Blu-ray because the OVA movies are on the actual complete box set and everything. I swear that's how they love to cheat you. That's how they stick it to you and everything. So I wanted to make one correction. So, during my favorite part, which I've talked about like years ago when Ryo gets the white armor, like I wanted to hear what it sounded like in Japanese, and it's completely different. The music is different. It's more jazzed up in the Western version. And when I was listening to the American audio, I put on the subtitles to like a different like subtitle, and it shows me what they be saying in Japanese. The dialogue for this show is almost like completely different and stuff. Of course, you know, the language barrier and everything. And they had to take out curse words and stuff that's in the Japanese version. But I'm just so surprised that the dialogue between like the characters is just so vastly different between both versions and stuff. The armors in this show are quite unique and are the like focal point of the mystery of like the show, like where they came from and how they came to be. All of the 9 armors that the Ronin warriors and the Dark warlords wear all came from Topa's armor. When he was defeated by the Ancient One could not destroy the armors because they was too vast and powerful. So he split them up into 9 different armors and like, you know, had to do something with like the balance of people and earth and what they represent and stuff like that. So he split them off and sent them off to like I guess like the areas of the land where you know they can rejuvenate or something like that, right? And so 5 of them stayed like peaceful, but 4 of them was corrupted by like you know I guess the emotions of like mankind or something like that. And so when somebody acquired the armor, Topa was able to latch on and recapture the 4 that was corrupted. Now they say that like the armors are not technically good or bad, but you can clearly tell by their design that you know 5 are good and 4 are evil, because the 5 that are good, the Ronin warrior armors, They have this basic design of like, hey, they have an Under Armour that I call an exo like armor that is like their representative color, and the arms and legs and the midsection is like white. Then their like top armor is that of their primary color and is very bright, colorful, and they look like hero armors. The four Dark Lord like armors and stuff, their Under Armour is just their basic color, two different shades of it. And the upper armor looks more demonic looking and stuff. Except for Anubis, his upper armor isn't even armor, it's clothes and everything like cloth. So that's kind of odd. But nevertheless, the four dark armors look evil and demonic. So clearly, the designers wanted you to know that, hey, these are the hero armors and these are the bad guy villain armors and stuff. Yet in the American dub, they say there is no good or evil. But then they say, four of them got corrupted and everything. Anyways, but they can all like combine into the white armor, which starts to get confusing when you get to the OVA and there's a dark armor and stuff. But whatever. The Ancient One is said to have sent the armors off to find people that are brave. So that's how the Ronin warriors got their armor. They just sought people out who was brave, but we never actually see them acquire it and everything. Also, we've now seen in the second act, which is also some people consider to be the second season, the intro changes and stuff like that. Okay, it does feel like the show had two seasons. Like I've always felt that. But in America, it says it only ran for one season. So the second act, second season, or whatever, we see they have like these tiny little orbs. And that's actually how they transform. Because that was never shown in the first season and stuff. So the first act or the first season basically deals with us getting to know our heroes and them having to stop the dynasty. Basically, everything was normal until the dynasty came around and put a castle like somewhere in the city above like, the clouds and stuff. Then people started disappearing in the city, and it wasn't really so much like fog or nothing like that. It's just the dynasty soldiers, which are spirits that live within like these ancient armors that are like foot soldiers, came in like, gathered all the people. These people fear is what Talpa feeds on, and which causes him to go from a normal sized man to like a giant kaiju like type person, or a titan or something like that. And so basically the Ronin warriors, aided by Mia and Yuli, have to like, stop the dynasty. So like they learn about their armor and everything, they're fighting soldiers, and they try to stop Talpa until they realize that their armor is technically his armor, and that their armors are brethren to that of the evil like Dark Lords and stuff. Basically, they make their way to his fortress where they fight him and everything, but they all get their butts kicked. And like, so he tricked his Dark Warlords and took their armor. And then later on, he just defeated the Ronin Warriors, with Ryo being the last one. But later, he got defeated as well. They say he dies, so I'm assuming, yeah, he dies, whatever. He gets absorbed into Tulpa. He starts to give up in the spirit world until the Ancient One shows him, like, how everything came to be, and with Tulpa, and what he did with the armors, and how he should never give up. And then he turns into the white armor of Inferno, where he defeats Tulpa, but not for good. After that, the season or act ends, and then we go into the second stage of it. The second part of the show tries to expand the lore a bit more. We get introduced to a whole lot more villains of the dynasty and not just the warlords or Tulpa. In fact, the warlords really take a back seat in the second part, only to reappear to kick the Ronin's butt, capture 3 of them, and then do some stuff towards the end of the battle. Same way, kind of like with Tulpa, he kind of takes the back seat, and we get introduced to like a variety of like new villains that work for Tulpa because Tulpa is still alive. And it's really cool to see more characters within the dynasty because it's kind of like, what exactly is the world of the Netherverse, as they call it, and the dynasty and everything? Because you really don't see nobody but foot soldiers, Tulpa, and the Dark Warlords and stuff. And so by this time, every new character wants the new white armor and everything. And so it's kind of weird because the Ronin warriors have to go yet again on another solo quest to kind of like find themselves or master their weapons, power, armor, which is weird because they know how to master them ever since they first activated it in the first half of the season. So that leaves 3 of them to get captured. And honest to God, Ryo is really the only one who can ever defeat somebody. The other Ronin warriors constantly get their butts kicked. They can't even defeat a dark warlord and everything. But what's his name? That's okay. I'm trying. I can't think of his name. Strata, whatever his name is, the one that has the Strata armor and everything. Rowan. That's it. Rowan. Like he's probably like the only person who didn't get captured. Other than the other 3 and everything. So it's basically during the second half of the second part of the second act, like him and Ryo are like, on their way to like the not destiny, but the dynasty and trying to find their friends and defeat Tulpa. So it's mostly just those 2 doing like a duo type thing. Mia and Yuli take like a back seat, and they had the nerve to put Mia in the kitchen 3 times, making the guys food. Yeah. I did not like that at all. But, there's some redemption in the form of Anubis and everything. And we get the deadly character of Lady Kyra. And we get more lore into the ancient ones like, clan and everything. Because there's like a whole brethren of them and stuff. And so the second part of like the show, it really does try to like, do more world building, more drama, more suspense, not just action, but there is still plenty of action. And even Blaze, he has to make a sacrifice, and Yuli, he gets to help out in a major way and stuff. So the second part of the season feels more like a show and not just an action show like the first part, And the craziest thing about the Ronin Warriors is never stated how old they are, but if you go online to like the Wiki fandom page, they're teenagers. Ryo is no more than 14 years old in the TV series, and then 16 and 17 in the OVA movies and stuff. I guess they must have explained their ages in like the manga or something like that. Also, some of their backstories, because we find out that Mia's like half Canadian, Kento's Chinese, somebody's related to like a famous like warlord from back in the day or a dynasty or something like that. And it's just kind of like, why couldn't they ever mention any of this stuff in like, the show? You know what I'm saying? And they never did. And I just don't understand why certain things just was never explained in like the show. Ryo. So Ryo is the unofficial leader, and he wears the color red. And his armor is wildfire, and he wields 2 katanas. He also wields a secondary armor that's combined with the other armors and stuff. Now, in the OVAs, his name is later pronounced Rio. And I believe that's because that's the actual correct pronunciation and stuff. But I grew up with the American dub, so I'm gonna say Ryo and everything. Apparently, the dude is like 14 years old. And I cannot believe that in the television series because it's never been stated. I've always wondered their age. Like, I always assumed they was like 18, 19, something like that. But nah, apparently he's just like 14. And he's voiced by Matt Hill. Now, Matt Hill voiced Raphael in the Saban Fox Kids Ninja Turtles Next Mutation. Personally, I think he sounds more like Michelangelo, but he does a pretty good Raphael New Yorker type accent. Ryo is probably my favorite because he's just cool. He has like the red armor. I love katanas. And he also has the armor of Inferno. And so, for the most part, when it comes to his character, he's like overall a cool guy, but he does have like a hot-headed temper. Like he's the best fighter out of all the Ronin warriors, and he's the only person to really ever get like a good bashing when towards like the villains and stuff. But just like most of the Ronin warriors, he's never really defeated anybody. Like everybody assumed he defeated Talpa and everything, but he didn't. He didn't even really wound him and everything. But he does defeat like two other guys. One's bad, one's good, but decides to fight him anyway because he wants his armor. And those are really the only two he's ever defeated, but he's only defeated them with the white armor, never his regular armor. It's weird. The Ronin War is supposed to be like the champions of mankind and very powerful and very strong. Yet the only villains they can defeat are like foot soldiers. And foot soldiers are suits of armors with souls in them. And that's literally it. And in the first episode, Ryo actually had the hardest time trying to defeat a foot soldier. But like when it comes to that of his armor, he's the one who mostly fights everybody, and I mean everybody. He's like Yuli's favorite and everything. And he wields such devastating like firepower. His firepower is like so strong and everything, it can melt an entire building. But when he uses his power, it's not in the form of like flames really. It's in the form of like a white light. So I've never understood that because like all of the guy's powers seem to come out like a white light, except for Rowan and everything. For the most part, like he is the one most connected to the Ancient One and always asking for his advice. I still can't believe his age and everything. Now, it said that, in the second part of the season, they went back to where they found their armor. Because his armor can rejuvenate itself doing like anywhere that's like hot. Like in a place that's on fire, a volcano, something like that. And so when he went back to the place where he found his armor, it's a volcano. What the heck was he doing in a volcano? But we've never get to see this part and stuff. We don't know nothing about his back history unless you want to read about it like online and everything, which I'm assuming came from like the manga, because the OVAs, which I've only watched one time, and I made the mistake of saying that Mia's voice is boppy, similar to Kitty Pryde in X-Men Evolution, because that's how I remember it from a long time ago. But when like I rewatched the clip and it's not that way, but her appearance does change and everything. And Yuli actually is in the first two OVA movies, but he's not in the last, thank God. And so for the most part, like I said before, he's cool, level-headed. But he does have like a hot streak to him. He kind of likes to jump into situations, but then there are times where he is more like, he'll use his brain to like think of a situation. But for the most part, he is the main fighter of the show. And during the second part, he does get exhausted a lot. And after fighting Tulpa that first time, he really, really, really have to rest like a lot in the second part of like the show. And what's interesting, I know that like in the second part of the show, which I forgot to mention, they wear their clothes like a lot. And this is when I say that the second part of the series really truly tries to feel more like a show, whereas the first part of it just seems to be like this action show that wants to sell like, whatchamacallem, action figures. His white armor of Inferno was just like the coolest thing ever. I remember when I saw it happening. Because when he was fighting Tulpa, all the other Ronin warriors have fell to him, got absorbed in Tulpa's body, because Tulpa's body is the armor, and their armors are broken down to be Tulpa's armor. And he was at the point where he was giving up. He got absorbed in. He's kind of like in this heavenly type state. And he literally just like gave up. He fought as hard as he could, but the Ancient One is the one who brought him back and taught some sense into him to where he bust out the dude's body. And then the other Ronins, their energy gets absorbed into his armor and it turns into the white armor of Inferno. And apparently the white armor of Inferno was kind of like a fail-safe. When the Ancient One, broke up the armors and sent them off into the mortal world and everything, I guess it was kind of like the desire of man to where if they ever needed like extra like help or whatever, this white armor was like created throughout like I guess people's like willpower or something like that. And there were ancient Ronins in the past that wore all these armors. And the first one to ever wear the white armor was a person named, I think, Helios or something like that. And so there's not much about him. Because I always wondered if this armor is technically Tulpa's armor, and they all got broken down into 9 armors and stuff, then when the heck did this come about and stuff? So this is kind of like a little fail-safe. And there's even swords that go with it, 2 katanas, because those are the only thing that can like withstand the intense power of the infernal armor, which is said that it can destroy the entire world. That is how powerful this armor is. And so when Ryo started using his regular katanas with this armor, at first they worked until they broke because the power of this armor is just too strong for it. And so he had to go and find like, the swords of Ferber, I think that's called. But the thing is like there's a secondary armor that goes with this armor, and it's like to a tiger, Black Blaze, and it's never explained where Black Blaze came from. But anyways, I'll get to that a little bit later. And so with this armor, he was able to defeat, or he assumed he defeated like Tulpa, right? But then like, it turned out Tulpa's still alive. And then these 2 other warriors, one's a villain and one owns Black Blaze and, the swords of Ferber. And so, like, once everybody assumed that what's his name was defeated, this one villain decided to fight him. And then this one warrior decided to fight him as well to get the armor because he wanted to take down Tulpa. And so those are the only 2 he's ever really defeated with, like, this armor. But, like, he was able to, like, subdue Tulpa long enough. So in the final battle and everything, because the problem with this armor, it reminds me of a Power Rangers Battleizer, to where it becomes a crutch. To where in the second half of this series, he's constantly using this armor. Every time there's like a new villain, the new villain is tough. And so that everybody's all like, let's just, combine our armors and blah, blah. And it becomes a crutch to where they feel like they need this to defeat anything because like they just feel like they're weak and can't like do it. And I do hate that mentality in a lot of these like, Japanese shows and stuff, whether it be live action or like animation. But to be fair, a Battleizer is not like a Japanese creation, it's an American one. So I hate that they felt like they need to use that for like a crutch. But like he was able to subdue Talpa long enough. He did kind of like a Neo Matrix type move where he like, just jumped inside Talpa's body and just kind of held him there long enough for the Ronin warriors to slash him down, which was odd because the Ronin warriors are actually very weak compared to like, the Dark Warlords and stuff, and also Lady Kyra, and even to the most part like Ryo and stuff. But then when the show was like over and all evil is defeated, it's weird. Like the ending is just so confusing to me, and I'll get to that a little bit later when I get to Yuli and everything. But when it comes to the OVA movies, I'll probably talk about that in a separate video, probably. If I don't do it in this video, I kind of really don't want to watch them. I hate them so much. But the white armor does, play a significant role in like those movies. White Blaze. So he is Ryo's faithful tiger. He's an albino tiger with black stripes, and he travels everywhere with Ryo, and he helps protect that of Yuli and that of Mia. It is revealed that he was actually the Ancient One's original owner, so he must be like over 1,000 years and stuff. It's never explained how Ryo actually got him or why the Ancient One gave him to him, because Ryo had no idea who the Ancient One even was. And in one episode, White Blaze literally sacrificed himself to save Yuli, and he died. And you actually see the blood. It was then that Black Blaze, a twin tiger that was black or grayish black with black stripes, infused its soul into White Blaze, and he was resurrected. So now whenever Ryo turns into that of the Infernal armor, he transforms into Black Blaze. But it is never explained why Black Blaze has an identical armor as that of the Infernal armor. I wish to God they would have explained this stuff. Kento, so his armor is that of hard rock and is orange. I've always liked this dude because he reminds me a little of Michelangelo. He sounds like Michelangelo. He has the color orange. But like and then he eats a lot like Michelangelo too. So I always thought of Michelangelo whenever I think of this guy. He's the only one with like a round head. But it turns out that he's Chinese and not Japanese. That's what I read online, which seriously, this stuff is never explained. So he is probably the toughest out of all like the Ronin warriors. He's kind of like a meathead, jockhead, like muscle guy. He's really, really, really physically strong. And his power is devastating. I mean, devastating. He could literally rip an entire neighborhood block with just his power. That's how powerful it is. Now, he's voiced by Jason Graves Stanford. And I believe he was voiced by somebody else in the OVA movies. And so, like, his weapon is interesting. It's a combination of, like, a 3-section staff, which those things are hard to use. I've tried and I can't do it. But I don't know how the pronunciation of all these Japanese weapons, but when he combines his 3-section like staff, it turns into a bigger, longer staff that's made of metal with a big long blade at the end of it. And the animation is so good in this show that like the armors look like real metal armor, And not only that, but his weapon looks like a giant iron staff. Like you can feel the weight to it. And that's something a lot of American cartoons need to like learn how to adapt when they're drawing like armor or metal. Because one of the things I always hated when watching Ninja Turtles is how their weapons don't look like metal, or how Iron Man's armor doesn't really look like metal. It's kind of shiny, yeah, but it doesn't really look like metal, and it doesn't make metal noises. One of the things I can appreciate with this cartoon is the metal crinkly noises that their armor always makes. Like whether they're just moving their arm or walking, you always hear that metal noise, which is something you don't hear in other animations and stuff. But like I said before, he is a major meathead. He's constantly wanting to fight people, whether it be like the bad guys, and he's always getting into arguments with like the other Ronin warriors, and even tries to like fight them at times. But the dude loves to eat, and I mean he loves to eat. And so like his armor is connected most to like rock and desert and mountains and stuff like that. And when I say his is like probably, I truly feel like his is probably the most powerful when you look at it next to Ryo's displayed on screen. Cause you see these big boulders just like bust out of like the ground, and it's like really cool and shocking. He is probably the only other Ronin warrior to get to like any type of like character development, because he goes through this like dark period where one of the bad guys is kind of like, your power is so strong and your armor so strong, it's evil and everything, and Topa will love that. So the more you use it, the stronger you get, and the more devastation you can cause. Like, look what you've done to this neighborhood and everything, because his power is so great. So it gets to the point where he just doesn't want to use it, and the other guys have to like convince him, because he's worried he's gonna turn evil, because he realizes he's a hothead and everything, you know. But for the most part, just like with the other three Ronin warriors, he's always getting his butt kicked and even gets captured a couple of times. But in the second half, he voluntarily goes, because when he finds out two of his friends been captured, he's all like, you know, just take me, because he plans on rescuing them, but he never does. And he can't even defeat Lady Kyra. Like he goes in like a bull and everything, and just gets his butt kicked by her. Matt Smith voices him in the OVA, and his voice sounds completely different than that of the original voice actor. Sage. He wields the armor of Halo and is green. And his is mostly like light energy. And he's supposed to bring, you know, the light into the dark and defeat it and stuff like that. His voice actor is Michael Donovan. And so he has a very cool look to him. Other than like Ryo, who has that long hair with the bangs that's kind of like a mullet, he has this kind of like, I don't know what kind of hairstyle you call it, but he has like part of his hair over one eye and everything. And he's always posing like he's cool. Or when he like was first introduced, he's falling upside down and like in just like a very cool pose. So he's kind of like the cool guy. He reminds me of Matt from Digimon and everything. I have no idea what his weapon is called. It's a giant long sword. And his armor is very cool looking. But just like with the others, he has a bit of a temper as well. And his power, you know, I don't know. His power is supposed to be that of light. But when they find his armor, I think he's like, I don't know, in a rock or something like that, and they're like a forest. But it's kind of like when you look at all the other guys' powers, their power is light energy as well. So I don't understand how his is any different from theirs. But with his weapon, he's able to slice through anything with a very precise, thin cut and everything. And he can literally slice open like an entire mountain if he wanted to. And he's able to give Ryo back his vision because he got blinded, and he was able to use somehow his sword to like bend the light into his eyes and heal it somehow. He's one of the more weaker fighters and stuff because he's always getting his butt kicked and he's always getting like, captured and stuff like that. I don't really know what else to say about this dude because it's kind of like he's also a little arrogant and stuff. But like other than that, like I said before, there's not much character development with these characters. Sai, also voiced by Michael Donovan. And so Sai is really interesting in the sense that it's revealed he is the oldest, yet they still never said that in the cartoon series. He has like a very soft-spoken voice. It's either British or like New Zealand or like Australian. Why he has this accent is never explained, but I do appreciate the Western dub voices. I love the Western dub voices. And I love how they try to make them all distinct and not the same like all the others. That's the problem I had with Sailor Moon Crystal, is everybody tried to sound exactly the same. Now, he has a light blue armor. There's actually two Ronin warriors that have blue armor. I don't know why one couldn't just be purple. But anyway, his is light blue and it's that of the Torrent, and he mostly revolves around water. Let's see. His weapon, and I can't pronounce this, a Jumanji Yari. And it has like two prongs that open and close and stuff like that. Out of all the Ronin warriors, he is probably by far the weakest in terms of fighting. He's very passive and he does not have a temper, but he tends to get his butt kicked more than everybody else. Now, what's interesting is that he had his armor clone that had like poison and stuff. But yeah, when I say he's like the weakest of all, he is the weakest of all. His power doesn't seem all that impressive. And he mostly just shoots out like light beam energy or water. He can take out an army, sure, but his power is just so boring. It seems like whenever somebody that's like a Japanese superhero from either like live action, I'm about to say Sentai, but live action or like anime, the water-based powers just don't never seem cool. They're not like waterbenders in the Avatar series in the over here in America. They do some cool stuff with water. But like, yeah. But then in the OVA, I'm surprised they actually made him one of the focal points of the storylines in one of the movies and stuff. It's where he contemplated if he should give up being a Ronin warrior or not. Rowan of Strata, my third favorite. He has a dark blue armor, and his is that of Strata. Basically, he has the power of life, which it's never really truly explained that way. I mean, if you had the power of life, why couldn't he bring anybody back from the dead? You know what I'm saying? He has a golden bow and arrow, and he's voiced by Ward Perry. He has a very thick New Yorker accent. Don't know why he has a New Yorker accent, but I appreciate it. And in the OVAs, he's still voiced by the same actor, but his New York accent, you can barely hear it. He is really, really loyal and everything. Like, that's all I can really think about when it comes to him, is that he always has everybody's back, especially Ryo's. During the second half, he's the only one who's not captured, so him and Ryo have to go on a quest to save the others. And, he does a very impressive job at like hoping to save the others. In my opinion, he's probably second in command or something like that, just by how like determined and focused he is. He proved to be a very skilled fighter when it's really hard for him to fight because he just has a bow and arrow. but he will use it in hand-to-hand combat. And the creators, the illustrators, they really overuse his template of him and Ryo using the same fighting style over and over again, to the point where they used it 3 times in one episode. Like, we get it. You don't want to have to draw nothing else, and you're just reusing the same template. It got annoying towards the end of the series. But he is the one who rescues the other 3 Ronin warriors and stuff, and he uses his arrows to put their life force back in their body because they turned to stone like statues, kinda, in a way, you know? It's like their armor is just there and you can't see their faces, and they act like a bunch of statues that can't move and stuff. But he is the one who like saves them and stuff. And he's also the one who tries to, like, you know, break up conflict between the other Ronin warriors whenever they want to fight. He has a very unique fighting move where horizontally he does a bunch of flips and then he kicks somebody in the face. He's the only one who like does that. When Mia and Yuli had to go look for the other Ronin warriors one time in the first half, he was up in space because his power of strata and life somehow connects to that of like the sky and everything. He is the first one to discover Lady Kyra and everything, and of course he gets his butt kicked by her, but he puts up a good fight when fighting her. Mia, French Canadian Japanese character, which is never revealed she's French Canadian. I just found that out online. I don't know why they didn't explain things in the show. She is our prominent main female of the show. She has no powers, and she never gets to fight anybody or defeat anybody, but she is highly intelligent when it comes to research. I always appreciated that with her. She's never really a damsel in distress. Yes, she does get tied up like once or twice, and the bad guys are always surrounding her and stuff, and like White Blaze have to, like, you know, help protect her, or one of the Ronin warriors. But it's never like she's kidnapped like the Ronin warriors are and held for ransom or nothing like that. I always liked the fact that she was always intelligent and really good at doing research, which she learned from her grandfather. And she helps take care of Yuli when his parents are captured by that of the dynasty and stuff. And one thing I also appreciated was they never gave her a love interest. I hate when they do that and stuff. She has her little pink jacket thing, and it must be winter during this during the setting of this show. But if it's winter, why is Yuli wearing those like Daisy Duke shorts? And so, like, she's very calm, but she can also be stern, but she's also very like gentle and stuff. However, one thing, like I said before, that pissed me off was in the second half of the series, they stuck her in the kitchen at least 3 times, and she literally says, like, you guys had a hard battle. Why don't I go in the kitchen and make you some dinner? And I'm just like, no, they doing the woman thing on her. I like how she was kind of like independent. Like, she's very independent, very focused, very driven, and then they stick her in the kitchen. And then to add insult to injury, every time she ran in the second half of this series, she ran that dainty girl kind of way. And I'm just kind of like, come on now, like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on, like, what are you doing? But her age, she's older than the Ronin warrior. She's at least 17 or something like that in the cartoon series. Her grandfather ends up dying. He's not really in the show that much, especially in the first half. And he's kind of like mysterious a little bit, but he knows a lot about like the Ronin warriors, and he taught her how to research them, and she knows a lot and stuff like that. She's the one who's always figuring out, like, you know, where the Jewel of Life or the Swords of Fabra or where the Ronin warriors are located at, based on like where their armor came from and like stuff like that. But he ends up dying when the Dynasty soldiers like possess his body and stuff like that. Now, one thing that's confusing in the second half of the show is when they take refuge and everything, they're at somebody's house and it's never explained who house they're in. I'm assuming it's probably Mia's, but if she's really 17 years old, how the heck does she have a house of her own? It can't be her grandfather's place, because I'm pretty sure he was in an apartment during the first half of the series and stuff. So it's never explained who home that is. Yuli. I hate this character so much. He reminds me of TK from Digimon, but TK is probably worse. This kid is so freaking annoying. He's very rambunctious and he won't shut up. But he's only annoying in the first half of the series. The second half, he's actually pretty enjoyable. He acts like a normal, regular kid. Like he's playing Ronin Warrior, like he's one himself, and he doesn't act too butt-headed and everything. Like in the first half, basically like this, his parents were shopping, and when the Dynasty came and kidnapped everybody, he was able to escape. And so he hangs out with the Ronin Warriors and Mia the entire time. And he worries about his parents and stuff like that. He just talks and talks and talks and never shuts up. He is very stubborn at times and wants to get into the action sometimes. Because, he sees his friends getting hurt and this and that. Normally, whenever there's a battle, him and Mia just stand out in the open near the battle, just standing there. And it's like, dude, take cover and everything. He wears like this beige sweater with these Daisy Duke shorts and everything. He's like 8 years old in the series. And he's just highly annoying and everything to the point where Ryo has to slap him one time. Oh my god, he would not shut up. And Ryo just went slap. Anyways, so normally, like I said before, if he sees one of the Ronin Warriors hurt, especially Ryo, because Ryo is like his favorite, he will literally jump into action and stuff like that. He's mostly paired with Mia and White Blaze, and sometimes whoever the ancient gonna be at that time. But in the second half, like I said before, he's a heck of a lot better. He's just acting like a normal kid now, which is a lot more enjoyable. However, where the heck are his parents in the second half? I understand why they're gone in the first half because they've been kidnapped, but in the second half, they're back home. They have no memory of what happened when they was kidnapped. Neither does anybody else other than the Ronin Warriors and Mia and Yuli. So why aren't they taking care of their son, and why aren't they asking, hey, where are you and everything? Because at first he's missing in the first episode. I think he shows up in the second just skating around, skateboarding around when he sees one of the Ronin Warriors. He knows where Mia's house is at. And then he just hangs out with them for the remainder of like the series and stuff. And it's just like, it's never explained what happened to his parents after that. And then once again, he's hanging out with them in the OVA movies, except for the third one. Now, he gets an important role in like the second. The Jewel of Life. So basically, this is said to destroy Tulpa. But it never does. That's what always confused me. It can do other things when fighting bad guys, but it never destroys Tulpa. Anyway, first, the new ancient one gives it to Mia, and she gives it to Yuli, because only a person of pure of heart can use it. However, the new ancient one, who is not pure of heart, he was able to use it somehow. The Western dub is so confusing at times. I'll get to how confusing a little bit later. And so, like, So he's like, he's trying to use it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it destroys foot soldiers and guides him to the Ronin warriors, stuff like that. But like when Topa is finally defeated by the Ronin warriors and not that of the jewel, he uses it to grab Ryo out of Topa's body before his body is fully destroyed. Then something strange happens at the very end of like the series. As he's saying goodbye to like the former bad guys who are now good, the jewel of life somehow turns into a glowing like energy ball, a small one. And the Ronin warriors, along with Mia, for whatever reason, decide to play baseball with the little flying orb type thing. It's never explained why they're playing baseball with this powerful jewel and everything, but they are. And not only that, but their outfits completely change. So when they were the Ronin Warriors in the second half, they wore their regular clothes like they always do. Then they transformed into their secondary, their first armor, which is kind of like the exoskeleton, and then they transform into their bigger armor. But then when they de-transform, all of a sudden their regular clothes are gone, and now they're wearing like high school like sports jackets and stuff with like a leather on like the chest area, and it's like, where these come from? Like, I don't get it. Like, they was never wearing these clothes before, and all of a sudden now they're wearing them. It's so confusing. It's so confusing. Now, in the OVA, in the last movie, because he doesn't appear in this movie, but only in the last couple of seconds, he is doing kendo and everything, and he's 11 years old, and he just graduated. And he actually looks very determined, very strong, and you know what? As much as I hate this character, good for him towards the end. The Ancient One. The Ancient One is one of the coolest characters in this series. He's this old, mysterious man who is kind of like a combination of Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the original one, and Zordon from Power Rangers. And he even sounds like the original Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is the one who helped set all of this in motion. So 1,000 years, and they literally state 1,000 years, and that's very important because I'm going to get to the next character after this, where they changed the years and stuff. But 1,000 years ago, Tulpa, tried to destroy like, the dynasty and the mortal world, and, come to the mortal world and destroy it. So the Ancient One is part of a brotherhood of people known as the Ancients. And after Tulpa got through kicking everybody's behind and everything, and defeated everybody, destroying the line of ancients and stuff, the Ancient One put on his suit of armor and he went to town on Tulpa. With one strike, he defeated him and stuff. Tulpa vowed to come back and reclaim his armor. Afraid of this, the Ancient One could not destroy the armor because it's way too powerful. So what he does instead is he breaks it up into 9 smaller armors and stuff. And this is what became known now as the Ronin armor and also the Dark Warlord armor. And then he sent them off to the mortal world. So I guess mankind can use them to help defeat evil, and hopefully Tulpa can never come to the mortal world and find them and stuff. And so he is said to be the one who gave the Ronin warriors their armor, but he never gave them their armor. Somehow they just found it in an unexplained kind of way. And so when the Ronin warriors started fighting, he would mysteriously show up with his staff and help them whenever they needed. His staff is probably the most powerful weapon there is next to the infernal armor and stuff. Well, actually, it's probably more powerful than that. doesn't really destroy, but it is able to do things that they need, like send a gateway to the dynasty. Is able to have Ryo transform, because Ryo needs the combination of multiple armors to turn into the White Inferno. But with the staff and only one Ronin warrior, he's able to do that. And so, like, he gives them all kind of guidance and wisdom and stuff like that, and he aids them on fighting Talpa. But he loses his life to Talpa when he sacrifices himself. He knows that the Ronin warriors needs a way to get to the dynasty from the mortal world, so he creates a bridge with his own life force energy when he tries to fight Talpa one last time. Because Talpa's so strong, he has to like subdue them for the Ronin warriors to like, get the final shot in. So he is now dead, like very early on in the series. But even in death, his spirit is still talking to the Ronin warriors, still guiding them, still encouraging them, and still helping them master that of their armor. Anubis, he wields the armor of cruelty. And so actually you can actually buy his toy now on Amazon or eBay. I don't know how long it's been out, but I think he's the only Dark Warlord master to have like, a toy figure in the new line that's out right now. And it's probably a reason why he is like the first of the evil ones to come out, is because either out of all the Dark Warlords, he is the only one who has the most character development and an actual backstory. So this is where it gets a little confusing. Originally, it was said 1,000 years ago, Topa has, brainwashed that of Anubis and had him fighting for him. But then it gets later changed to 400 years. Why? I don't know. But apparently he was a warrior back in the day. I assume he was just a warrior. But then it said online he was actually an evil warrior and everything and killed many people. So either way, he's just been a bad guy his whole life. He is the leader of the Dark Lords, and he is the first to break free of Topa's hold. Like, he's very powerful and everything, and he's able to kick all the Ronin warriors' butts. And when he first starts like fighting them, he's always going after Ryo and stuff. But then I think because of the Ancient One's staff, it kind of helped broke a little bit of a hold on him and started to have him remember who he used to be and how Topa could care less about him and stuff. This causes Topa to put him in like, have the nether spirits brainwash and corrupt his mind. And so like at one point he is brainwashed and possessed, but he's able to break free of that and later on like, help fight against Topa. But he gets absorbed into Topa's body along with everybody else to complete Topa's armor. But then at some point we see the nether spirits, after that battle happened, the nether spirits still trying to brainwash him again, only for him to break free. After that, he's not seen again, and when he reappears, all of a sudden, he is dressed like the Ancient One and has the staff. Now, with his heart purified and everything, he wants to fight for the side of good. He is the first one to make this big leap, you know what I'm saying? And it's very, very fascinating. He's still new to using the Ancient One's like staff and the powers and everything, but he is able to wield it. I wish they could have showed him having a little bit of difficulty, but they don't. And so it takes a while, but Yuli and Mia and Rowan and Ryo, they like accept him and everything because he is shown to like help them. But before he is shown to help them as the Ancient One, before Ryo even got the white armor, he is shown in his armor form to fight alongside Ryo and everything against Talpa. And so, like, it's really cool that he was able to go from evil to good and aid that of the Ronin warriors. And so he is the one who helps Lady Kyra become like a better person. See, the ancient one's staff, like it cracked a little bit of like her necklace type thing, which caused her to remember her past. Once then he found out her big secret, and he's the only one who is able to defeat her in battle. And the way he had to defeat her was because she's very powerful and he was wounded and he had to sacrifice his life to help her. So he basically infuses his armor into her because after a while he gets recaptured and stuff like that. And the ancient one, the real one, gave him back his armor so that he could fight. So he gives it to Lady Kyra, and then he like somehow I guess he's so weak and he can't like he hit her with such like devastating energy blast. I guess his own body couldn't withstand it because he doesn't have his armor to protect him, and then he dies. A very noble story for like a villain and stuff. Lady Kyra. So she is a very cool character. However, I just now found out she's 12 years old. She's not drawn like a 12-year-old girl. She doesn't look like a 12-year-old girl. I guess in the manga it's revealed she's 12 years old, but what the heck? But anyway, growing up, I was a huge fan of hers. I just hate how evil she is. She has a cackling laugh, and she's constantly using it when talking and fighting. And she can beat every Ronin warrior with ease, and even the Dark Warlords and stuff. She is very powerful, but she shows up completely out of nowhere. See, during the second half, after Ryo defeats those two warriors who try to take his armor, and then the Dark Warlords capture three of the Ronin warriors, she's tasked with capturing Rowan, but she's unable to do it. And this is when she literally just appears out of nowhere, and then she becomes like the main general, to the point where the other Dark Warlords do not like her and try to fight her. And that when Ryo was able to use their Dark Lord armor to turn on the White Inferno, because all the armors are the same. It's just the Dark Warlords one have been corrupted. And so like it's revealed later on that she's actually the last descendant of the Ancient Ones and stuff. See, the Ancients are normally a group of men, but she's the only female to be born. And so knowing this, Tulpa had her kidnapped and had Badamon, another spirit, like brainwash her and make her forget exactly who she is. But because of the ancient staff that refuses to strike her down, it causes her to remember some of her memories, only for Badamon to possess her body. And this is when she has that huge battle with like Anubis and stuff. But after Anubis like sacrificed himself, now not only is she the new current ancient one, but she's also now a Ronin warrior and the only female one, because now she possesses the armor of cruelty. But she never really uses the armor and we never see her again. So they took this really cool character and did nothing with her in the OVAs. Badamon is like the main nether spirit who does all of Tulpa's evil doing, brainwashing, magic, stuff like that. And it's Anubis who defeats him. He is the one who brainwashed Lady Kyra. Sarambo is the very first new villain who tries to take over once everybody thinks Tulpa is dead. And this kind of made my eyes kind of like, wake up and everything. Because I'm kind of like, oh, there are other people in the netherworld. Or they used to call it the dynasty in the first half. But then they called it the netherworld and the netherverse in the second part. I'm assuming that in the Western dub, they did this because they trying to capitalize on Sailor Moon. But anyways, so like he wants the armor, he wants to take over the world, and Ryo has to defeat him with the white armor. Lord Saberstrike is the second one. He's known as a warrior, but they also say he's a bad guy in online, but he never seemed bad. He just wants the white armor so that he can defeat Tulpa because he knows Tulpa is alive. His companion is Black Blaze, which is a tiger that looks identical to White Blaze. They have a similar name, they have the similar look, but it's not said if they're related or not. But his tiger wields a white inferno armor and has the swords of Ferber. It's never really truly explained where Black Blaze or White Blaze even came from, but like, and how this dude even got the swords or whatever, or that white armor, or is none of that is ever explained. But like he's defeated by Ryo and stuff. And Black Blaze, he does something really interesting. The Dark Warlords and their armor. So it is stated by like, Tulpa and the Ancient Ones that, all of the armors are the same because they are. But here's the thing, when the Ancient Ones split them into like 9 different armor, or split the armor into 9 different armors, 4 of them became corrupted by that of man and everything. And when they became corrupted, Tulpa was able to seize those armors a whole lot more. And this happened like, 1,000 years ago. No, not 1,000 years ago, probably. See, this is what the whole Anubis thing doesn't make sense. I believe it is 400 years that he's been evil with Tulpa and everything, because 1,000 years ago, he was defeated by the Ancient One. So, 600 years later, or whatever, like he found like, the armors and stuff. And so I believe like, they're all like, they are immortal, and they've been, fighting for Tulpa for 400 years and stuff. But not much is known about the other 3. There's Kale, who has the armor of corruption. And in the Japanese dub, Kale's real name is actually Anubis. Why they changed that for the Western dub, I have no idea. So, like, his power is all about, like, darkness. And he has, like, a black lightning strike. And he mostly fights against that of Sage. Dark and light, stuff like that. Deus, he's has the armor of illusion, and he's kind of like this bug-like type armor with this weird hand thing with these little claws and everything, and he's always like tricking his opponents and stuff. Segment has the armor of venom, and so basically with him is that he has like these 6 katanas that he can like use all at the same time, and he has poison based powers. He mostly fight against that of Sai. Tulpa is voiced by Mina E. Mina, and this dude's voice is awesome. I love when he talks. He's always stating the obvious, just like Mia and everything. And so, 'cause that's what they do in a lot of like, anime. They overstate the obvious. And he's always explaining things, at least in the first half. In the second half, not as much. Because him and the Dark Lords, take like a back seat in the second half. But he is the one who wants to destroy the mortal world and capture the mortal world. And he controls the dynasty, which is now known as the Netherverse and the Netherworld and everything. He's just all evil, and he possesses this very powerful armor, which, like I said, the Ancient One struck him down and divided his armor into 9 solo armors. After that, he became a pink floating head with a different face. I like the floating head. It's like really cool. And so his whole thing is regaining his armor. So after he found like the four warlords and everything, and he pretty much has them do like his bidding and everything. He could care less about them. Now, he's the size of a normal human, but he can grow into a kaiju form when like he feeds off the fear of like regular people. So during the first half, he captures everybody in the city and he feeds off their fear, becoming giant size. After all the Ronin warriors fall victim to him and the Dark Warlords, their body armor get absorbed into his floating head, and he regains his body and his armor. His armor is black. His face has like a red armor thing, and he has long flowing white hair. And so Ryo is able to subdue him with the white infernal armor. After that, he just disappears for a couple of episodes, then reappear. And when he reappears, he still has his armored body, even though the Ronin warriors and the Dark Warlords are no longer inside him. And so, like, pretty much, he has bottom on, like, start like brainwashing people, doing this, doing that. He causes the people in the mortal world to be like greedy and everything, pretending to give them gold and all this other crap. He uses the armor of the Ronin warriors to like create a very powerful sword that he gives to, I think, a warrior named Tala. But he gets his butt kicked by Ryo. And so, like, other than that, it's shown in the second half. Now he wants everybody's armor and the infernal armor to pretty much destroy the entire world. He is very, very, very evil and stuff, but his plans always fall through because the Ronin warriors are always there to, like, stop him. And so in the final battle, it's kind of weird because it's like I said before, Ryo pretty much jumps inside his body, Neo Matrix style, and holds him there. Because even the white armor is not strong enough to defeat Talpa. And so, like, then Ryo tells the other Ronin warriors to strike them down with all their massive power and stuff. So they do, one by one, and for whatever reason, when they do it, and I've never understood this about Japanese anime, is that when the Ronin warriors strike them down, it jumps to a scene of them, like an all-black background. The color of their suit armors in flames, and all you see is their naked body holding their weapons, striking Topper down. I don't know what the fascination is with naked people in anime. I really don't. But in a way, they're able to split his body in half, and he's finally defeated once and for all. And it's kind of like, how? The Ronin warriors, while their power is strong, they're shown to get their butts kicked, and they can't even defeat the Dark Warlords and everything. So how the heck were they able to defeat this dude, and the white armor wasn't even able to? It's just to give them this strong moment, because it's shown how weak they are in the series, so whatever. Okay, so for Ronin warriors, Gaiden, if that's how you say it, or are you supposed to say an A like a U in Asian culture? Would it be Guden? I'm just gonna say Gaiden because I'm an American. So anyway, that's how I'm gonna pronounce it. The first OVA movie, or OAV as some people like to say it. I particularly do not like the OVA movies. I just find them very odd. However, this one is pretty decent, like decent in my opinion. It came out in 1989 in Japan and in 2003, I believe, in America. I saw this on YouTube. I don't even know when I saw this on YouTube. Was I in college? Maybe. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? I feel like I was in college. But I might have been home. Who knows? But anyway, the story starts off with like Ryo, who's now called Rio, because I guess the Japanese pronunciation is Rio, but I'm still gonna say Ryo. And so like three of the cast got replaced. One doesn't make no sense. Sage. Why replace him and his voice actor is the same guy who voices Psy, Michael Donovan. And so if he's there to voice Psy, why can't he do Sage at the same time? That don't make no sense. But he's been recast by Trevor DeVille and everything. And so like Kento also got replaced by that of Andrew Ferris. And let's see, Mia got replaced by Maggie Blue O'Hara. And Yoli also got replaced by, I forgot that voice actor's name. Funny that Kento, Mia, and Yui, I can't, why I say Yui? It said, I can't remember this dude's name right now. Yuli. They got replaced by people from X-Men Evolution, so that's kind of cool. Now in this one, Maggie voices Mia in a more upbeat kind of way. Andrew, on the other hand, sounds a lot more like Michelangelo than the original Kento voice actor did. And they have him saying dude a lot. But they sound very similar, so that's really cool. So the episode starts, because they're like broken down into 2 episodes, the movies are. So the episode starts off with the end credits being created for the movie, where Ryo has like a surprise birthday party. Kento has won the lottery, $3 million, something like that. And it's revealed that Kento is Chinese and has an uncle, a Chinese uncle that lives in New York. Basically, the plot of this movie is that somebody's been killing people in New York with like Japanese weapons, and the blade is similar to this one dynasty family that Sage might be related to and stuff like that. So they wanted his expertise on it. Okay. Like, you couldn't find like no expertise in actual America or another part of Japan, but whatever. They have to make the plot go on flow and everything. So he goes over to New York, and Ryo realizes that Sage is not there for his birthday party, sees his armor on the news, and Sage's armor has been killing people and attacking people in New York. This caused Ryo to fly over to New York by himself for some bizarre reason and not take the other Ronin warriors. But the other Ronin warriors just happened to be on the same plane as him, because apparently Mia told them that. But Mia Yuli got to New York first. Also, why is Yuli still there? Like, where is his parents at? It's never explained. Like in the second half of the television series, he's still hanging with the Ronin warriors, even though his parents are free. So he's constantly hanging out with Mia, and like she's even holding his hand now. So like, what the heck, man? And his parents just gonna let him go to New York and LA with a bunch of people? Because technically, everybody in Japan should not even remember what happened to them, because remember in the first half when they got captured and later got freed, they said they had no memory of what happened and everything. So whatever. So anyways, they're there, and Rowan goes to talk to the reporter, photographer person who took the pictures of the armor. But when he goes there, he finds out the dude is dead. So he pulls the dagger out his chest, and this girl named Runa, that's it, Runa, sees Rowan and assumes he's the one who killed her uncle. And so, like, Runa is actually named Luna in the Japanese version. So I don't know why they just didn't keep it Luna. But maybe they would have thought people would have got confused with Sailor Moon or something. Who knows? So she wants to get revenge on Rowan. Because, you know, that's what Americans do when they see their dead loved ones. They just want to go running in the streets with the murder weapon and try to kill the person that did it. What the world, man? Is that really how they view us and everything over there? Anyways, I mean, it's kind of true. But anyways, they're there at Kento's uncle's like restaurant, and Kento doesn't like the idea of like his uncle hand on Mia's like shoulder. Does he secretly like her or something? Because there are no love interests in this like cartoon series. And so at some point, they get like attacked and separated, like always. And Mia and Yuli gets taken hostage by the new bad guy. I'm not sure how to say his name. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it. I can't. But anyway, it's the new bad guy, and he's some kind of really big-headed, like sorcerer type person. Where he came from, who knows? Um, because the only people they've ever fought is from like the Dynasty Netherworld. So who knows where this dude came from? Maybe the same place, but why is everybody turning bad over there again when they're supposed to be good now? Who knows? But this dude is grotesque looking. Like a big head, long nose, long ears, long droopy face. Like, blah, he's so disgusting. And they keep making it like the camera keeps focusing on his ugly face and everything. And so, like, Rowan and Ryo, they get attacked by, like, some henchmen who just happen to look Japanese from ancient time and stuff like that. And they're in New York for whatever reason. But at some point, we see Sage being held hostage, and he's on a pentagram. And there's a bunch of wires connected to him in his exo mini armor, and it's connected to a computer, and it's controlling his actual armor. And so I guess they wanted to mix like sorcery with like, technology and everything. And so at some point, like Kento and Sai get like attacked. Something that's bugged me about Sai is that he has a second weapon, a dagger that's connected to his back on his upper right shoulder, but he never once ever used this thing. I don't know why it's even drawn there if he's never gonna use it. But anyways, Ryo and Rowan, they get attacked by I think like the military and like the police. So Runa helps them out, and she's all like, oh yeah, like, she's convinced that they're not evil and not murderers and this and that. And so like she goes with them to LA because that's when Mia and Yuli is being held hostage. I forget how they figured that out, but whatever. So while everybody's there, they get captured like always. Then they get free. We see an American professor. He's the one who lured like, Sage to like America about the armor, no, the swords and stuff like that. And this man has like a crooked face, a crooked nose, a crooked mouth, crooked eyes that are two different shapes. Why they make him look like that? Like, why? Anyways, they all get free. They all fight like the sorcerer dude. This is the first time we ever saw a person have like a gun in Ronin Warriors. The professor guy has it. Somehow, Yuli is able to defeat the professor guy who has a gun by grabbing onto his feet. Whatever. Mia knows how to use his computer because she watched his keystrokes. Whatever. And so, like, the evil sorcerer dude turns into his true form. But before that can even happen, he tries to strike down Yuli. And so, Runa jumps in front of Yuli, and she gets struck by a sword, but there's no blood, which is shocking because in the cartoon series, they show blood before. And so, like, she dies. And it's turned out that she has a crush on Ryo, and it turns out he might have one back on her. But when was this ever developed? When was this ever really shown? It's this movie is just so fast paced and loose and everything, and it's very rushed. They transform. He turns the evil dude turns into his true form, and he's resembling Topa of all things, but in Topa's like ghostly pink form. And so, of course, because the Ronin warriors are very weak, they have to call on like the white armor of Inferno, and with one strike, he is defeated. Never once do any of the Ronin warriors say, "Oh my God, he looks like Topa" and everything. It's never mentioned. But after he strikes him down, all of a sudden, they're in the outside, and Ryo dedicates something in Runa's like memory, like her hair bow or something, and throws it in the water as everybody's just there. And of course, Mia and like Yuli always running to like, the camera and everything. And it just ends just like that. And they're back in New York all of a sudden. And it's always been weird how they roam around New York and LA like they know where everything's at. And they've never been to like America before. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people like this movie. I don't. It's very rushed. It's very fast paced. The writing is very sloppy and everything. Like, when was this romance developed between Runa and Ryo? Like, when? You would assume they probably would have been rolling since she assumed he was a murderer, but then assumed he wasn't. And, like, it's just, who is this mystery villain person? And how did they know that technology could hook up to this mystical, magical armor and control it? You know what I'm saying? Like, and why did he take the form of Topa and everything? And why didn't anybody recognize he took the form of Topa and everything? It's just one of those things where things are just thrown together and never really explained. And I hate that. I also hate how they made Yuli and Mia like damsels in distress, which is something they was rare. Like one time, I think that happened in the cartoon, but it never happened again. And that's something I always liked about Mia in the first half of the cartoon. She wasn't your typical female. She was smart. She was engaging. She wasn't in the kitchen. She wasn't like, a damsel in distress. And she had no love interest. Then in the second half, they put her in the kitchen, and now here they're making her the damsel in distress. And they're kind of hinting that Kento might have a crush on her. I'm sorry, I can't. Like, I'm a person who needs logic. I need things to make sense. I can't just have a bunch of stuff chopped up and thrown on screen and you expect me to think it's the most awesome thing in the world, like a lot of people who seen this movie that I read on Reddit. Oh, this is the bomb. This is like so cool. This is so awesome and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, it's okay. Like, it's decent at the most. It has an interesting plot. It's just chopped together and put on screen and very, very rushed. The second OVA movie is Legend of the Infernal Armor, which technically this should be an S at the end of armors because there are two infernal armors and stuff, but hey, whatever. So once again, this came out in 2003, and the voice cast is the same for the first OVA movie and will be the same for the third. And once again, they've recruited people from X-Men Evolution to take over for the new voices and also the new characters. So once again, like Andrew Ferris, he is Kento, and he was Iceman in X-Men Evolution. Maggie Blue O'Hara, she was Kitty Pryde, and she's the new Mia. And I forget the guy who plays Yuli, but he was Leech. And, whenever he appeared in the show for those few episodes. But now we have, like, Makala, who is voiced by the guy who voiced Colossus in X-Men Evolution. And whoever is Nara, she was Jean Grey in X-Men Evolution. Which, by the way, Makala and Nara, they're both black from Africa and everything, because this movie deals in Africa. And just like in every other, Western dub anime, they're voiced by white people. Oh, the racism. Seriously, they can't get Asian people to voice Asian people. They can't even get black people to voice black people. And what's so insulting, if they were going to get the people from X-Men Evolution, there are two black characters in X-Men Evolution. Storm and Spike. Why couldn't they voice like these characters? But I digress. The Legend of the Infernal Armor is longer than the first OVA movie, but it also is better than the first OVA movie. It's not as rushed as the first OVA movie, but there are more questions than answers when it comes to this movie. They try to explain the white infernal armor and everything, and it's a bit more confusing than what we saw in the television show. Granted, in the television show, it was pretty straightforward, but then they kind of contradicted themselves just a tiny bit in the show. But this one, I don't know, man. It's just confusing. Like, it's really, really confusing and stuff. But apparently now there's a twin infernal armor. One is black, and somehow it got all the way into Africa. They also bring back Black Blaze, Black Blaze, and they try to tie him into like the black infernal armor, which is confusing because one, they've never explained where this black tiger ever came from. People just always assume he was tied to, Lord Saberstrike. Then not only that, but if he's tied to the black armor, why does he wear white armor similar to the white infernal armor? And is he related to White Blaze? Like, it's just, I get they wanted to answer a lot of the confusing questions that came with the show, but now they have a bunch of more confusing questions and stuff. So basically in this movie, the guys are about a year older, and so Yuli is supposed to be at his parents' summer home with them. So it's like, okay, so they got an excuse to get rid of Yuli, right? Nah, they brought him back because apparently Rowan and Yuli are gonna surprise Mia for whatever reason. And so once again, he's hanging out with them and his parents are nowhere to be found. And even more confusing, they all go to Africa. So it's like, how is his parents okay with this? A little boy is literally with a bunch of teenagers fly to Africa without any parental supervision. I know the age of consent is completely different in Japan. So I guess they become adults a lot sooner. But still, I think a long time ago, the age of consent was 13 and everything. That was way too young. Now it's 16, and in my opinion, that's still too young. But in other countries, it's 16 too, but still way too young. Anyway, this whole Yuli thing and him hanging out with Mia and the guys has always been confusing. Now he's back to being annoying again. Ugh. Thankfully, he won't be in the third OVA movie. But anyway, White Blaze is back. He wasn't in the first OVA movie. And he's just there just to be there. And so, basically a portal opens and then parts of Africa are kind of hologrammed into Japan. This confuses the guys. And then all of a sudden, this tall black guy with white hair, reminded me of Storm, comes to Japan named Makala. and he starts to fight that of the Ronin warriors. But it's shown that he is as fast, strong, and agile as the Ronin warriors, but without armor. This is very confusing. And he has this giant, like enormous sized boomerang. But then all of a sudden, he can't speak. Well, I'm about to say English, but technically this is Japan. But he can't speak Japanese, but he just speaks African. And he calls on his armor. And he calls on his armor completely different than the Ronins and the Dark Warlords. And then all of a sudden, he wears like, this black infernal armor. But he doesn't have the under armor on like the Ronins and the Dark Warlords do. So he just reveals like his arms and legs and part of his midriff area. And it's kind of like, whoa, this is second like armor. Where did this thing come from? Well, they don't know, and technically we don't know. And you won't really truly 100% find out either. So he fights them, and then he starts to take Ryo back with him. Sage interferes, and they both get teleported to Africa. The reason why the other Ronins didn't call on like the infernal armor is because Sai is beside himself. Now, one thing I do like about this is that they gave Sai a subplot to where he contemplates the violence that him and the others have like experienced, and he doesn't want to be a Ronin warrior no more. He no longer wants to fight. This is interesting because Sai is by far the most boring Ronin warrior who ever exists. He is the weakest fighter, and I've never cared for him in a television series. And so the fact that he has like these feelings is really fascinating and interesting. It even gets to a point where he fight both Rowan and Kento in a fist fight. And he's the most passive aggressive one, but yet he's now acting like Kento, a hothead who just punches his way through things. Also, Sai is the oldest of the Ronin warriors, but it's never revealed in any of this, this movie or the television show. So he literally runs off and he separates himself from his armor and knocks it in the water. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is interesting. How far is this gonna go? Well, of course, they fumble his character development after this, so it doesn't go very far. So while in Africa, they meet Nara, and she's the fiance of Makala, and she pretty much explains everything to the audience and the Ronin warriors because they can't show flashbacks and everything. And so, like, apparently, in their tribe, Makala is the one who wears the black armor, and people worship him as a god. Whether or not he is the leader, who knows? How exactly how exactly the black armor even came to be in Africa? Who knows? How is it a twin of the white armor? Who knows? Because what's confusing is that the Ancient One separated Tulpa's armor into 9 armors. 4 of them became, and then he set them off into the world to help that of mankind. All of the armors have been found in Japan, but for whatever reason, this one is now in Africa. But the Ancient One did not create a 11th armor. See, 4 of them became corrupted, and the other 5 pretty much somehow, and I don't even still to this day, I don't know how, it created a fail-safe to where when these 5 armors combine, they create the white armor of Inferno. And so it's been stated that the armors are all the same. None of them are good or evil. But if it becomes corrupted, then they become like evil. Now, the fail-safe white armor, like I said, it has to have the combination of the other 4 armors, along with Ryo's and stuff. That's like 5 combined. Now you can also combine them, mix match them. I can't talk. Mix match them with the other armors and stuff, or like you can use like the staff of the Ancient One, Black Blaze armor, one of the other Ronin warrior armors to, create the white armor of Inferno. And it's like an extremely powerful armor that can destroy the entire planet. But it's used always primarily for good. Now, the original person who wore the armor was a warlord by the name of, now I said Halio, I think, and earlier, but I think it's Harel or something like that, or it's something like that. Hariel, that's it, Hariel. And so, like, it was stated he's the one who first wore like this white armor. It doesn't say where he came from. Doesn't say how he somehow created the armor with the other 5 armors and stuff. They've never explained this in the show. But it's assumed that Black Blaze was his companion because he has the Swords of Ferber attached to his armor, and his armor is white, along with the white Inferno armor. But now in this movie, Black Blaze seems to be connected to that of the black Inferno armor, which doesn't make no sense because their armors are 2 different colors, and the black Inferno armor does not have a weapon. Also, the black Inferno armor can just be summoned on its own without combining other armors. This don't make no sense. And it would have made more sense if the 4 dark armors created the black armor. It was right there. Why didn't they just say that? But anyways, it also is determined that both armors of Inferno are actually bad because of how powerful they are. But the black Inferno armor is just evil. Gee, I want to know why. And so, like, it has the ability to corrupt, its owner. This is why Makala is so evil and always wants to fight them. And also now it's stated that the armors are somewhat alive and everything. And that when Ryo first donned his armor, it caused Makala's armor to pretty much like do whatever it wants on its own and everything and separate itself from the Makala. This also makes no sense because the white armor has always existed, so why hasn't the black armor ever went off on its own and wanted to reunite with its twin and fight it? See, there's more questions than there are answers. And so basically all what the armors just want to do is just fight. Like the black armor just wants to fight the white armor for whatever reason. And so it possesses Makala into thinking he has to fight the Ronin warriors, but more importantly, the white armor to declare himself like the best or whatever. And somehow it takes possession of the other armors, making them dark as well. And I'm just kind of like, how is this armor corrupting all the other armors? It doesn't make no sense. And so, like, Sai, on his little side quest, you think you're gonna hear this big monologue about how, like, he has to continue to fight, how he has to continue to do this and do that, but we don't. Instead, White Blaze comes to him, turns into Black Blaze, just looks at him, and all of a sudden Sai's like, I understand. Well, you understand what? And so they both get teleported to Africa. And he tells them, he doesn't really say much, but he just tells them, like, the black armor needs their virtues. Now, virtues is now something finally like labeled in the show. See, in the show, whenever the Ronin warriors like say their symbols and what their symbols mean, like virtue, justice, light, life, and stuff like that, or whatever, those are called virtues. Now in the show, they were just called emotions, but not all of them are emotions. Like, justice is not an emotion. So like the show just kind of didn't know what to call them and just called them whatever. And so the movie's like, all right, we're gonna call them virtues and everything. And apparently, the white armor and the black armor were two armors created with no virtue, like the other nine armors. So they steal the virtues from the other armors and stuff. And armor without virtue apparently is bad or whatever. Okay, well, the four Dark Lord armors, they have virtues and they're bad. See, this doesn't explain much. Anyway. So the Ronin warriors figure like, okay, look, man, we gotta destroy these two armors. But how? They're immensely powerful, more powerful than your armors. But of course, the movie's gonna figure out a way. So with all the virtues and everything, they purify the white armor. How? Heck if I know. And so Ryo's finally able to use it. He fights what's his face, and what's his face girlfriend gets like hit by the energy blast. It's then and there he realizes he doesn't want the armor no more, and all the Ronin warriors somehow, along with Black Blaze, somehow purify his armor. And then his girlfriend apparently is not dead and was saved by Black Blaze somehow. And so she's back. He's happy. Black Blaze separates himself from like White Blaze. Don't know how, because that's the only thing keeping White Blaze alive. Because White Blaze is dead, remember? And somehow he separates Psy from his armor. Well, I don't know. And then he just like walks off and everything. Okay, whatever. And then McCall is happy. He smiles, and in rolls the credits. And I am so confused. I don't like these OVA movies. They're confusing. But the most confusing is the next one, Message. So another thing that bugs me about this whole African setting thing is that when they're playing their music, it sounds almost Latina, and when they're doing their chanting, it sounds indigenous, like Native American. And I'm just kind of like, come on, Canada. It can't be that difficult to try to mimic like the music and chants of like African people. It really can't. I hate Message so much. It is so confusing. I hate it. So there's a woman named Zuzuzagi, and for whatever reason, she's like our new main villain person. But she's one of those misunderstood villains, like always. And so, like, she really wants to destroy all of the Ronin warrior armors and the Inferno armor. However, all of the armors are now gone. It's been about a year since the second OVA movie, and the Ronin warriors haven't been Ronin warriors no more because their armors, like, purified the dark armor of Inferno and just disappeared along with Black Blaze and everything. So the guys have went their own separate ways, and we see Ronin running, and he's in distress, and we don't know why. And all of a sudden he starts getting attacked by this woman, and it's shown that there's a force field around his body showing that he still has traces of his Ronin power in him, which means all the other guys do too. And this woman knows that. So Suzuzagi talks to him. And basically, every episode, because there's 5 of them, that deals with one Ronin warrior specifically. And it's just nothing but big, long-winded speeches, either doing a recap, of the entire show and the OVA movies, and the guys giving their opinion of what's going on. Basically, like, you have Psy and Rowan talking about, oh, this is such a curse and a blessing at the same time. We were never meant to be Ronin warrior. Why are we Ronin warrior? Blah, blah, blah. And look at all the destruction and blah, blah, regretting what they have done. Where Kento's all like, gotta keep up the good fight. Gonna keep fighting to the day we die, blah, blah. And Sage I think he was just in regret, talking about, whatever, we did good things and blah, blah, blah. And then there's Ryo, who literally just sits in his room, listening to an answer machine with all Ronin warriors, feel like they're talking for a whole hour. and he's just sitting there. It's literally just a still clip of him sitting there, listening to all the guys recapping everything again. And it's just like he just accepts what it is and tells Suzuko, like whatever, man, like, we'll do it. Like as long as I have my guys with me. So she wants to destroy all the armors because apparently back in the 1800s, which is the 19th century, a playwright wrote, somehow foresaw everything. Foresaw the new Ronin warriors taking up their armor, defeating Tulpa and crap like that. And so he also stated something about the world would be destroyed, some crap like that. She feared this and everything because she fears that the armors are going to bring about war between the human world and the nether world, and she blames the Ancient One for bringing these armors here. And her mom and dad have died, left her alone with nobody to love. And so because of that, she wants to destroy all the armors. Well, destroying them isn't gonna bring back her parents or reverse time, but in the midst of that, she wants them to form the infernal armor so she can destroy that as well. But don't you worry, because she gave them brand new armors. Well, it's kind of like, if these armors are so evil and everything and wield so much power and blah 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 blah, why are you going to create brand new armor for them to have more power and also destroy? That don't make no sense. And so now they have these brand new shiny armors that look really cool, but there's never no action scene with them. They just basically pose in them at the very last couple of minutes of like the movie. And I'm just and she captures all of them and put them in the armor. She even dresses Rio and everything. And it's just kind of like, this movie makes absolutely no freaking sense. It's too winded with all the speeches. Then her motivations make absolutely no sense. And like the guys, it's cool to have that internal struggle of them, like, contemplating what they did was truly good or not. But we know it's good because of what happened with Tulpa. Also, I'm sick and tired of them trying to say, oh, the Ronin warrior armors are evil and should never existed. And the white infernal armor is basically the devil and you should never wear it and everything. The white infernal armor was awesome. But then in the last two movies, they've been trying to say how evil it is and stuff. And it's like, how is it evil when it was literally the failsafe to destroying all of evil and everything within Tulpa and crap? I mean, all three of these OVA movies basically just pissed on the television series and everything, in my opinion. Could you imagine if like Sailor Moon or Power Rangers or Digimon like had like a movie was all like everything you did was worth for nothing and your power is evil and blah blah, and we have to destroy it? Like, that would totally suck. In my way, truly believe the writer was just kind of like, look, stop bringing me back to write these movies. Like, it's done. And we see Mia for a very brief scene, and her role doesn't really make that much sense. Basically, she's kind of like a G4 Summit type thing. I guess she's supposed to talk in favor of the Ronin warriors about how good their armor is. Which, by the way, how the heck does the military of the entire world know about, like, all these armors and stuff? Because in the first half of the series, it stated that once all the people left Tulpa's like netherworld, they lost their memory of what all happened. So they shouldn't technically remember none of this crap. We also see the Ancient One release 5 of the armors and to give them out to seek out the people, which he did say. He created the armors and he's the one who gave them their armor. He told them to seek out like, those that are like, worthy of his armor, but we never knew they came in little teeny tiny boxes, which don't make no sense because these armors are so big and whatnot. But remember, they had those little glowing orb balls, so who knows, But then they still never explain how the Roman warriors actually found these armors, because they're supposed to find them in that second half of the series where they rejuvenated their powers and stuff. But remember, Ronin is supposed to be out in space, so how the heck did he get in space? But then the second half of the series, they show him like literally in like on top of a cliff, And you see him around the sky, so I guess that's how, but still, how did he find? I don't know. And why was Kento in the desert? And why was Ryo in a volcano to find his? I don't know. And Yuli, he gets to be a Kendo, like, student, and he graduated. That's at the very end of the show, so that's kind of cool. I'm glad they left him out. And they had White Blaze being kind of like a hallucination type thing. White Blaze has always sounded like a T-Rex and not a tiger to me, but whatever. And I don't know, I just don't like the OVA movies. They're confusing, they're very rushed, the dialogue don't ever make no kind of sense. I'm tired of them changing the powers and like the virtues and like people's names and like the power attacks and stuff like that. Like I want to hear Thunderbolt like cut, but instead they changed it to something else. And like I still don't understand why Sage had to have a different voice actor. If Michael Dullivan, whatever his name is, I said his name was, came back for Psy, and he's the same voice as Sage. Why did they get somebody new to voice him? I don't get it. And it's just, I don't know. I don't understand why people like the OVA movies. I really don't. Like, they're just so confusing and rushed. And there are so many people still to this day that are confused about the last OVA movie. Like, people just don't understand that movie. It literally makes no sense. It was literally a clip show episode. And I'm just kind of like, that's how it ends. And it's just kind of like, for me, screw the OVA movies. This show ended with the very last episode of the series. And, whatever. And if you don't like that, your mom wears army boots. I love that line from the series, but Google AI got it completely wrong. They said they think that the wrong Ronin warrior said it to the wrong villain. Don't make no sense. And speaking of the Dark Warlords, where the heck are they? And where is Lady Kyra? It's like they keep talking about all these armors and how they need the infernal armor and how their armors are apparently bad and everything. And the OVA movies, while they show clips of like the Dark Warlords, they're never shown in these movies. Shouldn't their armor also matter? Because they're part of Toppa's armor and they're part of the Ronin warrior armors and stuff. And it's just kind of like, if she was really concerned about destroying all their armors, why didn't she destroy the 4 Dark Warlords and everything? Like, bringing the Dark Warlords in would have made sense for the Dark Inferno armor. And it's just kind of like, ooh, I just don't like these movies. Also, I don't understand why Message has such a strong Christian like imagery in it. Like literally the villain sacrificed herself in that like hallucination and was crucified and getting poked by like spears. Like what was the point in all that if they wasn't gonna address any of it? So yes, this is a forgotten great anime that I've been wanting to talk about for years and years and years because it's so good. It's so action-packed. The visuals are breathtaking. The music, the voice work, and it sucks. This has never had any type of adaptation outside the manga in a video game. No live action, no musical, no reboot of the anime, like nothing except for like a manga, a video game, and some OVA movies and stuff. Now you can watch it for free on Amazon Prime or you can buy it on Blu-ray, but it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg to buy it on Blu-ray. And I really wish they could have explained so much more in this series because it just has more questions than answers and stuff. But it is interesting how the first half is all action packed, to have toy sales and stuff like that. But then in the second half, it gets somewhat more quieter and they actually try to have like an actual full-fledged story, but tons and tons of action. Happy Asian and Pacific Islander month, everybody. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.